Friend built this Biden/Harris billboard on her farm. 24 hours later it was destroyed. Crane said the bales that burned were purchased from the article. It also says they don't even produce enough to meet their own demands, so they have to buy some, so it's actually even worse. How much for an organically grown Biden sign? Google says the average cost for a round hay bale in 2020 is around $58, adding up to an estimated $1,102 for all 19. That's a really expensive way to make a sign. Edit. Holy moly, I know it was going to get used anyways, thank you. Yes, but if they were buying it anyway to feed their animals, then the giant sign was basically free, except now they are out $1,102 of hay they'll have to rebuy. That's it right there. They didn't pay a whole lot to make a massive sign, they paid a whole lot for animal feed and figured what better way to store something that's just going to sit outside anyway than to arrange it in a visible pattern and paint letters on it. We sold hay, and packaged it up the same way. Except ours said hay for sale, and never got burned down. It's funny because these same fuckwads will get pissed and too fanatical about their property. But they're the first to destroy something they don't like. This seems like a really bad look for the alleged law and order people. The law and order thing is a dog whistle for keeping the minorities in line. The people who lit this know the tagline isn't meant to apply to them. There's a good quote I don't feel like Googling, but I can paraphrase. When these people say law and order, what they mean is that they want laws which protect, but do not bind them. They want laws that bind, but do not protect the people they don't like. Trump quite literally pardoned felon Joe Arpaio, who ignored a court order and was convicted of contempt of court. Republicans have never cared about law and order. That's not all he did. Here is my comment from a thread 1 month ago. I have nothing but the utmost hatred and disgust for this garbage person. Link. Literally fuck him with a cactus. Edit. Link to about terrible things. Arpaio has been accused of numerous types of police misconduct, including abuse of power, misuse of funds, failure to investigate sex crimes, criminal negligence, abuse of suspects in custody, improper clearance of cases, unlawful enforcement of immigration laws, and election law violations. LSO the gun couple, who were charged with unlawfully brandishing their guns and tampering with evidence, were a part of the RNC. 2 people being charged with felonies were given a platform to talk about law and order. Not to mention the Republican governor of that state has said that if they are found guilty he'll pardon them. I don't know how the party can say one day that the justice system works perfectly well and we don't need to alter it unless we're making it stricter, and the next day say we're unjustly charging people who deserve to be treated better. Is the system broken, or not? I don't know how the party can say one day that the justice system works perfectly well and we don't need to alter it unless we're making it stricter, and the next day say we're unjustly charging people who deserve to be treated better. Is the system broken, or not? It's called blatant lies and hypocrisy, and it's not just the cornerstone of the Republicans' platform, it's nearly the whole thing. From the article, each bale was worth $65. That's some not insignificant property damage. Law and order my ass. I think they mentioned that because at $65 a bale, a quick Google, not a lawyer, means that if it's deliberate, that's a felony. Up to 10 years, apparently. You're just thinking about it from a destruction of property/theft perspective. In most places, arson is a felony regardless of the amount of damage done. As a matter of fact, in my state, arson is one of the crimes that you are allowed to use deadly force to stop. On a farm it could have easily spread too. Depending on the weather conditions and what ops friend grew nearby. Texas. Tell me Texas, gotta be Texas. Probably not Texas. Florida. In Texas you can shoot someone for trespassing at night. Is defaming election signage an additional crime as well? I know it is in Canada. I believe so, though a minor one compared to the arson and property damage. Just for some more background on prisons and felony disenfranchisement in the US. The US has 5% of the world's population, and 25% of the world's prisoners. Around 1 in every 110 adults in the US is currently in prison. 2.2 million people across the US. 8% of the US adults have a felony on their record, while 6+ million were felony disenfranchised in 2016, with over 1 million felony disenfranchised in Florida alone. Bear in mind a nonviolent drug offense can be a felony. Some states have felony rates as high as 15% of the adult population, Georgia, while Texas, Florida, Louisiana, and Indiana all have felony rates above 10%. As of 2016, an estimated 6.1 million people are disenfranchised due to a felony conviction, a figure that has escalated dramatically in recent decades as the population under criminal justice supervision has increased. There were an estimated 1.17 million people disenfranchised in 1976, 3.34 million in 1996, and 5.85 million in 2010. Approximately 2.5% of the total U.S. voting age population, 1 of every 40 adults, is disenfranchised due to a current or previous felony conviction. Individuals who have completed their sentences in the 12 states that disenfranchise people post-sentence make up over 50% of the entire disenfranchised population, totaling almost 3.1 million people. 1 in 13 African Americans of voting age is disenfranchised, a rate more than 4 times greater than that of non-African Americans. Over 7.4% of the adult African American population is disenfranchised compared to 1.8% of the non-African American population. African American disenfranchisement rates also vary significantly by state. In 4 states, Florida, 21%, Kentucky, 26%, Tennessee, 21%, and Virginia, 22%, more than 1 in 5 African Americans is disenfranchised. Since the 1980s, the U.S. prison population has grown 500%, even as crime rates have fallen. Since the official beginning of the war on drugs in the 1980s, the number of people incarcerated for drug offenses in the U.S. skyrocketed from 40,900 in 1980 to 452,964 in 2017. Today, there are more people behind bars for a drug offense than the number of people who were in prison or jail for any crime in 1980. The number of people sentenced to prison for property and violent crimes has also increased even during periods when crime rates have declined. I literally just used this website as a source for a presentation on felon disenfranchisement I spent the entire day doing. All started with Reconstruction-era attempts to force Black Americans into slavery. Black codes were a way to charge Black citizens with crimes, remove their right to vote through disenfranchisement, incarcerate them, and then use them for labor in what was called convict leasing. Private enterprises literally leased Black men from prisons to do unpaid labor, often in conditions worse than while in slavery. Slave owners at least worried about their property. This eventually evolved into the chain gangs ubiquitous in the South during Jim Crow. Convict leasing really only stopped because of the attack on Pearl Harbor. With America suddenly entering the war, FDR wanted to know what the Japanese could use against America. His advisors told him how we treat our own Black men and women could be used as propaganda. Soon Black Americans were fighting for American freedom, only to come home and get turned down for GI Bill loans, unlike their white counterparts. The racism just keeps going. Check out Slavery by Another Name. There's a YouTube video as well. Talks a lot about the 13th Amendment's failure to end slavery. That's pretty much my reaction when I see anything happen in this fucking country. A friend of mine is 27 and only now able to vote because of a felony conviction she got when she was 17 for, guess what, spray painting on private property. Democracy is a joke here. Shit, that was a felony offense. WTF. And 17 years old. If the damage was higher than 5K or something, it becomes felony. The weird thing is they treated her like an adult at 17 for a crime but don't treat her like an adult for other things. It is a weird hypocrisy. In Florida they got their right to vote again if they pay everything they owe the government, or some shit like that. Good luck finding out exactly how much you owe. Seriously. There's no centralized set of files with that information. Even better, when that fact was brought up in the inevitable federal lawsuit, the appeals court hand-waved it away with a legalese form of LOLSUX2BU. As a 20-year resident, Florida is a complete shithole in several respects. Florida doesn't have a database of court costs and restitution? That is insane. In my state, you just look up your case number and there's a link to pay by web, and it shows your whole balance. Or you can mail payment to the circuit clerk if you don't want to pay the 2% fee. And it's usually astronomical, so good luck ever voting again. Especially since it's near impossible to gain employment with a felony on your record. From Florida. Worse yet, the state didn't even bother to keep track of it. So it's less. Can I vote now? No, you have to pay us the money you owe. But how much is that? 20 mil. And more. Can I vote now? No, you have to pay us the money you owe. But how much is that? I don't know, lol. How can I pay back what I owe when you don't even know how much I owe? I don't know, lol. What if I give you like 20 mil, surely that's more than enough. I don't know, lol. And in many states they won't get to vote after getting out of prison either, especially if convicted of a felony. Is there a particular logic behind this? I'm from a country where they make sure even prisoners in a mental institution, by lack of better translation, I mean the criminally insane, are escorted to the polling station if they wish so. I'm not saying this is a good idea in particular, lol, but denying regular prisoners, let alone ex-convicts, the right to vote seems kinda extreme to me. The logic is minorities tend to vote Democrat, so just arrest more minorities and as a side benefit make it so they can never vote again. Kill two birds with one stone. The neighborhood here is about 85% sign-free, 14% Trump signs, and maybe 1% Biden signs. Those fuckers with the Biden signs are stronger than I am. I have zero desire to troll Trump people into wanting to interact with me. Keep that brand of crazy the fuck moving. Biden supporters know many of the Trumpers are also crazy. Yep, Utah and here in the very heart of the Morador, Mormon corridor, and there is no way I would put up a sign. I'm quite literally afraid of what would happen. Montana here at the center of anti-maskers and anti-fact land with a good amount of tweakers to spice things up, no way would we be safe putting up a Biden sign. Pretty certain Molotov cocktails would be a starting point here. Montana here. My mom lives on a busy street corner and she's had D signs up in the past with no problem. This is the election first year in 20 years that she won't have any kind of signs because she's afraid of someone doing a drive-by or throwing a Molotov cocktail on her roof. I'm in deep red territory in rural Idaho. My wife is half black. We're scared. We moved from Portland in June, probably not permanently, and while it feels somewhat safe out here, in terms of pandemic and all, it's also a out of the frying pan, into the fire situation as well. The people here are poor, but somehow Trump is their savior, COVID is a hoax, and Biden eats babies. It's wild. We truly are in a post-truth reality. Talk about regressive, these people want back to the slave times. A few miles down the road from us there's a place called River Clan Saloon. Yikes. And these people are armed to the gills. I'm hiding out until next year. I'm not sure that Portland is safe, considering it's now an anarchist jurisdiction. If Trump pulls some shit, Portland will be one of the first targets. As a gay man, I regularly struggle with where I should be settling. Do I follow the flight to the safer enclaves on the coasts, or do I stick it out in the more affordable but conservative areas and try to force a change? We're kind of in middling ground now, and already I'm growing weary of the fight to counter the Trumpsters' messaging and the local bigotry. I feel like by fleeing the Midwest, I'm helping drain the diversity, so I feel a bit guilty. But at some point, you just get tired, and it's so much easier to be in a more accepting community. Northerners who fly the Confederate flag are the worst. I mean, everyone who flies it is awful. But at least in the South there's the heritage angle. It can be hard to admit that your family fought for the wrong side. It makes it hard to really form an opinion on your ancestors. Mine that I know about were hard-working people who were good parents, and by being good parents for generations created a supportive, safe family for us to grow up in. But some of them also fought to preserve slavery. Most were too poor to actually own slaves, but they still fought for it nonetheless. So from a young age you have to either pretend the Civil War wasn't about slavery, or confront the fact that these people who you look up to and who shaped your family, though you didn't know them personally, they fundamentally shaped your great-great-grandparents, who shaped your great-grandparents, on down the line until you, and whose DNA runs through your veins, were in some ways incredibly shitty people. It makes you susceptible to believing all the lost cause bullshit because it's emotionally easier. But in the North, they don't have that excuse for why they fly the Confederate flag. They only do so because they're stupid and racist. I live in a deep red state, in a deep red district, with Trump-supporting neighbors and friends of all ethnicities. Only time I've heard the N-word used was when an 80-year-old man thought people would be on his side berating a black teen about his clothes. No one supports racism, and good people exist, but damn you people paint this country with broad strokes. In my 23 years of life I've met approximately 9 people that espoused racist views openly. None have ever been accepted by a majority of the people around me, and this area has been Republican for as long as I've known. Right down the road is a man with a Biden sign, and other than getting a laugh out of imagining Biden ever doing anything productive for the US, that sign hasn't been touched. Congratulations on going on about the one Biden sign when you can find millions of videos of Trump signs being stolen or vandalized. This idea that your side does no wrong and all Republicans are some neo-Nazi pro-Confederacy Klansmen is a paranoid delusion. And I know here on Reddit, the world of the leftist, this won't see the light of day, but damn you people are the most delusional bunch I've had the misfortune of reading comments from. Wow, triggered much? Not really. Amazed at the hypocrisy and blatant bullshit though. What is hypocritical about what I said? That's my experience, and while anecdotal, it's still valid. I never said all Republicans are racist. I'm glad that's not a common thing where you live, but you also should not assume that where you live is like everywhere else, and the people you know are like everybody who might hold those same political leanings. 9 people who openly express racist feelings is 9 too many. They may not drop the N-bomb openly, but your own comment bears out my point, that racism is very much alive and well in this country, and I think any critical thinker can figure it that its roots are squarely on one side of the political spectrum. When a candidate for president paints with broad strokes, calling an entire ethnicity rapists, and people not only cheer, but vote for them, don't you see that as a serious fucking problem? Yeah, because people who claim to be virtuous can't be assholes or ridiculous. Anything is justified if you can claim you're fighting an ism. I've posted there like twice out of thousands. You're really fighting the good fight. Looking out for OK signs, I mean white power signs, so very dangerous. You're from Portland, you're not a serious person to begin with. I hope one day you can decide on the pronouns you feel best suit you. You guys scour social media for the most obscure things and then try to pass it off as what the whole left thinks. Who the hell even finds those posts? Why the hell would you move to rural Idaho? Seem like the first mistake. I know a ton of people from California to Idaho to get cheap homes. I give them all 2 years max. Some people seem to not realize that cheap homes are often cheap for very good reasons, and 9 times out of 10, That reason is the location. If you can keep earning a California wage while living in Idaho, then you are set for life. The issue is usually these cheap places don't have many jobs, and certainly not high-paying jobs. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment Reddit Story Time for more Reddit stories.